They were among the most unusual motorcycles at the Rhinebeck Meet. A vintage Harley-Davidson with a photographer's darkroom and a single-cylinder Excelsior replica created because original ones are just too expensive. Tintype artist Rob Gibson of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania brought the Harley.
This is a 1950 Harley Panhead. We've added the Springer onto it, which was actually, the Harley only used Springer in 1 year, which was 48 for the Panhead. But a lot of the old timers preferred the Springer because it rode so much better with a sidecar, because your axle is actually out in front of the workings of the springs rather than in line with it. The sidecar is actually a 1938 Harley-Davidson package truck. These were made as a commercial vehicle. They were meant to be used by tradesmen, delivery people, and we've actually outfitted this one, so it is my rolling darkroom. With the kind of photography that I do, doing the old tintypes, we actually have to create a film, rush that film to the camera while it's still wet, then develop it while it's still wet, all before it dries out, which makes it no longer light sensitive.
And the camera is what?
Camera is 1860, that's original. The lens itself is a Ross lens from England. In 1862, when that lens was brand new, that lens was $540 back then.
Wow.
So that was a small fortune. You could buy a house in some towns for that. So this obviously sits on a big tripod, and to make my exposure, I simply just remove the lens cap and put the lens cap back on. So there is no shutter. My exposures on a day like today, a little bit of gloom and overcast, might be up to 4 or 5 seconds. Everything's posed just as it was back then, so you had to be absolutely still. So the process that I use was actually embedded in the 1860s, and the tintypes continued up into the 1930s because it was one of the only instant forms of photography. It was something the customer could actually leave with, and it was an image on a metal plate. Here's one right here. And as you can see, the writing on here is reversed. Tintypes are always backwards. I'm actually looking through the camera, I see the image upside down and backwards. That's the way all cameras work. Most of them have a mirror of some sorts to write the image up, unless of course it's digital where the sensor would do all that. But back then, people, it wasn't a big deal to see yourself backwards. They didn't wear t-shirts with writing on them, that kind of stuff. So it's I've had a number of people come into my studio in Gettysburg and say my great-great-great-grandfather was in the Civil War and he had a left-handed rifle. And it's like they didn't make any left-handed rifles, it was a tintype.
Across the showground, George Ellis of Coxsackie, New York was showing off his Excelsior replica as well as a Honda Dream. This is not original. What does it purport to be and how did you do it?
It's a replica of a 1906 Excelsior, and I used a Briggs & Stratton FI engine from 1924 and a set of bicycle wheels and fenders, and then I fabricated everything else.
What possessed you to do it?
There was something for me to do in my first year of retirement. Get me out in the garage and fabricate, and just so I don't watch TV.
How long did it take you?
1 winter.
Oh, really?
1 winter. Yeah, I built the frame, the tank, the toolbox, the forks. I built the handlebars and then had them nickel plated. It's got a mechanical throttle linkage that works through the steering column, just like the original Excelsior. Belt drive, it's got a working mechanical clutch. But you pedal start it, and it's good for about 15-20 miles an hour. It does work. That's an original messenger seat from the 20s, and acetylene headlight that's for a bicycle that I had picked up years ago. I always wanted a belt drive single-cylinder bike, and I would never buy one because it was just too much money, so I built one.
At the Dutchess County Fairgrounds for Ride Connecticut and Ride New England, I'm Bud Wilkinson.